Daifuku immediately showcasing more personality than we've seen the entire season. He absolutely destroys Mei. The second Mei is about to ruin this date. Welcome back to another wonderful review of a wonderful Precure. Episode 37, the date episode. Now, I think there was some worry that the date episode might try to retcon their relationship, and just to get it out of the way, that didn't happen. That's not something that happened in this episode, and I'm glad it didn't. I think this was another really good episode. Now, the last episode was with the A-team in terms of the artwork and script writing and everything else. Today, this is the B team, and honestly, the B team did a really good job picking up where the A team left off to continue the story, and let's just get into another really good, wonderful Precure episode. Iroha is getting ready for the date. She's getting dressed up. Her mother is helping her. She's quite excited for it. We're in good spirits. We also get a product placement shot, which I'm not going to complain about. I think it looks pretty. I can own all of this already. And we have Mei and Iroha's dad be like, not a date. Like, I was kind of curious last episode if the dad was picking up what was getting put down and being supportive, or if he just was being nice and had no idea what's going on in an oblivious way. It seems to be the latter. He is not super, he's like, a date with my daughter, very stereotypical, pretty funny. And then of course Mei, who against all odds is really the biggest hater of Iroha and Satoru getting together, which is hilarious. And the dad honestly very quickly is like, I just need getting used to it, but you know, it is what it is, and I should be supportive, which is hilarious. Cute way of being like, the dad is a stereotypical, like, dad in terms of tropes. But he is still, like, he is not the antagonist of this episode. No. That is, romance killer Mei. Also, I like that this, foreshadows the giraffe for this episode. Just a little cheeky thing they threw in there. And of course, this is, Mei's villain arc is about to start. Satoru also getting ready for the date. He is also mighty nervous. He is not any more ready than anybody else is. And Daifuku is there to comfort him. And we just look at the shy little guy. It's his first date. His dreams are coming true. And of course, very conveniently, Mayu and Yuki happen to be in the neighborhood, and they're like, "Are you going on your date? Are you about to go on your date?" And we just, there's so many cute expressions for the whole cast in this episode. They did a phenomenal job. All of them are really memorable, which I super appreciate. And Mayu's blown away too. Like, she's with me. We both are like, whoa, this is too adorable! And then I like this. So they basically redid the shot in the new outfit that we had in the mountain episode where Iroha ran up and Satoru was like, oh my god, she's so cute, before he gets absolutely destroyed by Komugi. But here, we get the redemption arc. He also makes a cute ooh-woo face, because everything in this episode gets a woo-fied. It's so shiny and cute and ooh. And even Iroha's like, oh god, he is cute. It's so adorable. It's so cute. Oh, listen, the whole episode is not just going to be making squeaky noises, but it might be. It might be. I'll try my best. And then Mayu is blown away, which... Mood queen, like, eviscerated by the adorable energy, and I feel that. As she continues to interrogate them, like, Mayu's sense of boundaries is very funny, because she's like, oh man, nothing's better than getting a front row seat to this romantic action. When I'm like, Mayu, please leave them alone. I will not forgive them, though. This whole sequence of cute date moments has the audacity to just be an imagination sequence. Like, rude. I had my hopes up. I thought at some point the date was gonna go really good, but of course it's just a little imagination sequence. But nonetheless, once Mei and Nico arrive, which Nico-sama, you know, for someone who was gonna fire Nico a little bit earlier in this season, you really cannot rein this guy in. You're just, like, letting him be out here. I also wanted to put out, too, that for someone who's watching it on Crunchyroll, they really handled the subtitles very differently in this episode. I'm not sure what's up. Like, I believe, historically, they had Mei with a hyphen in the middle of Mei's name. This one, they just have a space, which is kind of interesting. There's a couple of, like, little things that are off in this episode for translation, so I don't know if they switched the person or if it's just, like, you know, I gotta acknowledge the elephant in the room when it comes to the subtitles, which is that they are putting them out very quickly. It's an hour and a half after the episode airs. I assume that they get the files earlier than that and then do the translation ahead of time, and they're probably encoding based off when the Japanese subtitles were there. However, I 100% acknowledge that it is so, we are so fortunate to be getting these simulpubs so quickly. It is incredibly impressive, and really appreciate that. But yes, the translation was kind of funky, and then the Japanese translation for like the opening and stuff was really off. I don't know what was up with that, but nonetheless, back to the story. With Mei Mei there, everybody acknowledges that maybe our animals need to depart from us on this little date journey. Because, like, in reality, if you were a couple and somebody had pets, you probably would just keep the pet on the date. But given that in this universe, the pets have a little bit more, like, communicative sentience, it makes sense that, like, removing Komugi specifically from the date is an optimal decision. Which I've got to say, even the series feels what I feel, which is that if I had to guess, I feel like Komugi would have normally been the worst problem with any kind of romantic stuff between Iroha and Satoru. But B-Team, our Yonderful girls, are doing everything in their power to prevent Komugi from being an issue. And honestly, the few times where she does comment on stuff, it's not really a problem, so I'm really glad. I think they also did that for the sake of not wanting Wonderful to be a character that people dislike, with her being the main character. So I think it makes sense that how they handled her, and I really appreciate it too, because I really just didn't want to see Wonderful be the problem. We now have our cast into groups. Number 1 obviously being Satoru and Iroha, Group 2 being Yuki, Mayu, and Komugi, and Group 3 being Nico, Mei Mei, and Daifuku. Daifuku immediately showcasing more personality than we've seen the entire season. He absolutely destroys Mei Mei. The second Mei Mei is about to ruin this date, which I think is so precious and adds a little bit to this very silent, very unexpressive character as far as the rabbit goes. We see so much personality from Daifuku in this episode, and I adore it. Our date is off to the races. We have Satoru just looking like cute, being really happy. He is on cloud 9. But Iroha, on the other hand, starts to feel waves of nervousness. She does what anyone does when you get super nervous. She starts spelling out facts. She gets very adorable. She runs ahead. It's so cute. And Satoru, oh my man Satoru, your number one enemy, exercise, is about to enter the picture when it comes to trying to keep up with Iroha. Mei Mei, on the other hand, trying to, I think they creatively depict how Mei Mei feels about Satoru here, where he's like, I'm an idol fan. Also love that all of the cast here, minus Satoru technically speaking, are all in their final poses after the transformation, but they're in their civilian forms. I think that was a really cute nod. And just the fact that, like, the number one thing Mei Mei appreciates about Satoru is him always being on the phone. Like, it shows how far we've come from that one episode where Mei Mei was like, we can't tell Satoru. We can't have other people knowing. And he's like, I'm so glad we told Satoru. I love calling Satoru up. And then we have all these date imagery come up, and it's Mei Mei with Satoru. Ah! Not the parfait. Not the gummies. Not the running on the beach. Mei Mei. And then we have a shot of Iroha, where she is very pensive, but I love that they kind of do it in the tea. They really like to use reflective surfaces in this season. I really appreciate it. And to kind of pull her out of this little bit of, like, nervous melancholy, we do run into the girl that we ran into, I believe, during the leash arc, who, had her dog. And it goes to show that animals are, like, one thing that breaks away for both of them, because both of them are so informed and love animals so passionately that they're much more natural in that kind of environment, which is very cute. Mei Mei attempts to foil the scene by running in disguise, only for Daifuku to once again showcase us that he doesn't need a magical girl transformation, because he is already the strongest character in the season. And we have this very cute little, like, timeout sequence with, once again, Mei Mei getting beaten up by Daifuku, who brings home one of the, like, the hardest hitting lines for the episode, which is, like, I'm doing this because I want to see my friends happy. Like, that's the number one priority. It's not about me, and it's not about my desires to be with the person that I care passionately about. It's about my friend being happy and reaching their happiness. Which, ooh, that's a big one! That hit hard! In the meantime, we have our other little squad of 3 going around shopping, which honestly, when I think about it, a shopping montage mall episode would be ideal for this trio of characters, because I feel like Iroha just doesn't care as much. Like, it's not her passions compared to, like, Mayu, who's so fashion-oriented, so makeup-oriented. So I think it's really cute that this like trio of characters are the ones interacting and doing it, as well as, once again, this episode is doing what I really appreciate that Wonderful does, which, despite having a like pretty large cast of characters, is making sure everybody really gets screen time. Like, even here we have Daifuku, who is usually the least balanced character, being super balanced in this episode. And we have Komugi put on this dress. It's really cute. I love it whenever they do this, where they just, like, throw a character in another outfit. Because Komugi honestly has the cutest outfits in the season. Like, they did say she is the main character. She will be having the cutest fits. Like, the kimono earlier in the season. Oh, just so cute. Her bathing suit, adorable. Ah, so cute. And she's happy too. Like, I like that she's just kind of getting along with the flow. Komugi's always been, like, an hyper-positive character, but, like, compared to the characterization she had at the beginning of the season, she would have been like, it's Iroha or nothing. So for her to enjoy her time with Yuki and Mayu just shows how far along she's technically speaking come. The group then goes to get some melon soda, and oh, believe it or not, who came to the mall? Satoru and Iroha to go to the aquarium. But our girls immediately know that we shouldn't let Komugi be privy to what is happening. Also, it's cute that the romance squad does not stop there. Mayu, Yuki, and kind of Komugi all address the fact that Mei is running around playing detective, trying to sabotage the date. As we switch to the dates, which, I'm gonna say that aquariums in anime are typically... Wait a second. Aquariums are typically utilized in Yuri. What is this not Yuri couple sitting here going in the aquarium for? No. All jokes aside. We have the beautiful lighting. Also, just side note, they keep having a lot of romantic moments in water-themed things. Like, we had the confession at the ocean, and now we have them looking at the aquarium. And honestly, nothing is more precious than this. Being, like, accidentally brushing hands together when in the touch pool. Trying to pick up a starfish. Like, this is proper use of the environment to create cute romantic scenes. I approve of the romance written in this episode! And just again, the really good lighting, because you can have the really strong lighting in here that can make this tense conversation that they have just stand out even more with the visuals matching the tone of what is going on. Which is Iroha finally addressing the fact that she has been very stiff on this date. She's been really nervous. And she hasn't really known how to handle, like, this huge change in their relationship. And she apologizes for not really being able to be normal in this scenario. And this is usually, like, this would be, in a lot of other series, a death sentence, where it's like, I can't be who I used to be. I kind of wish I was the way I was when we were just friends. But Satoru really brings it in perspective and does something I don't really see other series do. In which he's like, I'm glad you were nervous. Not in the sense it's like, haha, I'm glad that you feel nervous now. It's in the sense that she is taking this seriously. He was worried that if they went on this date, it would just be the same as it always has been, and that really is no difference from just being friends. But the fact that she's been nervous shows that she's conscious of the change in the relationship, and she is thinking about him differently than she did before. And it's just, this whole scene is very beautiful. It's very, like, calm, cool, and we get this hard-hitting lesson and this hard-hitting moment, which is great because we get multiple things in this episode. Like, we have this whole date plotline going on, and simultaneously we do have the, like, saboteur plotline happening in the background. All of it intertwines with each other, but we get 2 very big moments. And Iroha just addressing the fact that hearing that has sent her in a little tizzy. She is even more nervous than she was before, but she also is like, oh god, this is really a serious thing. And that they're happy with it. This is where we're going. And it's so cute and it's so pretty. There's just so much shine and glow with our characters this episode. But speaking of the saboteur plotline, we have a Galgoon show up and our cures must deal with it. And Mei's like, explains his own feelings. Like, obviously he's like, Satoru's my boy and I feel like his time is being usurped by Iroha, but more importantly, he's also very worried that because of something like relationships, the cures will no longer want to be cures, and saving the world will happen less. To which everybody else reaffirms that this is something that they want, and we can't have these selfish feelings for our friends because we should prioritize our friends' happiness in situations like this. And we go as far to have Mayu say, we can handle the fight on our own. We genuinely, like, we've got to try to do this and let Iroha and Satoru have their date for as long as they can before they notice that there's a raging giraffe in the city. So the girls hop into action, and honestly, the visuals for this were a little bit better than I thought they were going to be, just because, again, we're with the B team and they tend to not be hyped up on the animation. As well as we had such solid animation in the previous episode that they tend to kind of take a break a little bit in the animation department afterwards, but these scenes aren't that bad. But of course, we need to bench these two because this is turned into a Mayu moment. So the two of them suddenly are completely surrounded by shopping carts. Meanwhile, Mayu goes on to take the giraffe on alone. And, you know, we've got to have a little bit of failure. We've got to have her struggle. But ultimately, tell everybody the message of the episode and how hard she's working. Which allows Mei to gain the power of motivation. Because if we have forgotten, Mei did solo the fawn killing animal earlier in this season, so I'm surprised that he has not gone to action more often, but he does take the motivation to try to free Nyami and Wonderful for the sake of making this a little bit easier for Lillian. And everything pretty much wraps up easily. Iroha and Satoru come in. Satoru basically, in a very weird way, carries, and he's like, it's a giraffe. Attack the legs. They attack the legs. Problem solved, the end. Like, we really just needed Iroha for the purification sequence. Otherwise, she didn't do much that they couldn't have done themselves. Mei is able to convey his feelings to Satoru. Of course, the confession we needed to have occurs. Komugi misunderstands everything that's going on, but not to the detriment of the episode. And everything wraps up really, like, nicely. To some degree, I feel like we kind of rushed to the ending. I feel like it's just like, yeah, everything was happy at the end. But that's okay. I think for what this episode is and how much it was, like, going strong, I think having just kind of, like, a big bow tied on the end with the wrapping paper not quite finished is okay. Because we do end on a very nice note in which Satoru and Iroha are finally able to call each other by their first names. For people who do not know, there is the Japanese tradition that first names are something that you save for people who you will have strong closeness to. Otherwise, you basically would say, call people, normally, the best equivalent I can say in English is that you refer to everybody as, like, Mr. Smith or Mrs. Johnson, just something, like, very basic, using kind of just the concept of, like, basic honorifics. So the two of them are now on a first name basis, which, to be honest, with them being childhood friends, I'm surprised that they just didn't kind of go to the first name basis naturally, because typically childhood friends, especially when you've been friends for a really long time, just are on the first name basis, because kids will get to the first name basis much faster than adults do. But we had to save it for the romance arc. So here we are, we get it, and we end the romance arc this way, with the rest of the series pretty much implying that they're just going to be together, but as I have hoped that the Precure series would eventually try, it seems that now it's just going to be kind of background noise. We're probably, like I said before, gonna have them have like little blushies, little cute romance moments, but it's not going to be enveloping the entire episode, especially since next episode is going to be a Komugi-focused episode, a Komugi-Iroha relationship kind of episode from the way that it's summarized and the way that the previews looked. But then again, this episode was supposed to just be a Iroha-Satoru date episode, and it really turned into this very passionate, like, understanding between Mayu and Mei, which, again, I love that. I love how much we're able to focus on the other characters. Like, it did not feel like what was going on with Mei and what was going on with, like, Daifuku and Mayu in this episode. It didn't feel like that usurped the focus of the date. I feel like all that needed to be said and done with the date happened. But moving forward, we'll just see where it lands. It doesn't feel like the series has any intention of giving up the relationship, which is fantastic. I'm super glad that that is the case. And I'm really happy with Wonderful. I think Wonderful has done stuff that make this particular part of the season not boring, because I would say this is usually around like the 30 episode to 40 episode mark is normally where I personally end up kind of dropping a series for a bit, and then I'll come back when it starts to hit the final arc, and then just binge everything. It's usually pretty hard for me to watch an entire Precure series for a year straight, and honestly, part of the reason why I thought I was going to be able to do it this year was solely going to be because I'm forcing myself to review every episode. But I think it has been significantly easier to stay excited about the series by them putting little arcs like this in. I think the romance arc has done a fantastic job at keeping my attention on the series, where normally a lot of this part, a lot of the 30s will typically be the second character arc for each of the characters, and admittedly, because Precure can't have every single character have the most interesting and amazing character arc happening, there's a lot of really boring episodes. There's a lot of really boring filler episodes, where a character, like, has to deal with a very small, basic lesson. It's usually like, I hate a vegetable, and we'll spend a whole goofy, silly episode about their passionate hatred towards some kind of vegetable. And it's like, that has its place, it's great for a kid's show, but in terms of, like, being able to keep retention for people like me, which, again, I understand I'm not their priority, it sucks. I'm like, I can easily binge those 10, 20 episodes of you guys doing silly, goofy, normal kid lessons, but again, the writing here has been working in really nice arcs, and I prefer this style of writing. Especially for a show that was supposed to be a fun, goofy, little silly, animal, lighthearted series after we had the really hard hitter of the anniversary Hirogaru Sky bit. Happy. I'm very happy with this. I'm really happy with the direction of the writing. Will they continue this for future seasons? No clue, but I'm happy here. Anyways, I've been yapping for a really long time, so I will see you next week. Bye-bye!